Good morning, boys and girls. All right, we're on to chapter 22 in front desk, where we left back. Um, the it looks like there was a car stolen at the hotel, and the police came and they were dealing with that situation. So here we are, chapter 22. I sat at my desk with my hand over my tummy, not hearing a word Mrs. Douglas was saying. Wave after wave of nausea hit me every time I thought about the day before. The words Mr. Yao said, the words the cops said. I tried to drown them out, but they kept coming back. Jason turned to me and said, "Hey, meet me at the auditorium during recess." I looked over at him. Sometimes I forget how much he was the splitting image of his father. "Please," Jason said, "it's important." I wonder what this could be about. I was about to shake my head, but there was an urgency in his eyes I'd never seen before. Did his dad tell him what happened? Was that why he needed to talk to me? So he could apologize? At recess, I walked over to the auditorium. Jason was already inside waiting for me. He smiled when he saw me come in. He was holding something behind his back, dandelions, which he presented to me. "These are for you," he said, stretching out his arms. I stared at the flowers, so warm and bright, in my downcast hands. "You like them?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "Good," relieved. Jason said, relieved. "But what I really want is for your dad. I know I'm going to tell him. As soon as he gets back from his business trip, I'm going to tell him," Jason said. I nodded. Good for him for finally standing up to his dad. "I don't care what he says," Jason said. "He needs to know how much I like you." I stopped nodding. "What? Wait, what?" I asked. He grabbed my arms and looked into my eyes. "I like you, Mia," he said again. I shook my head. "No, no." I didn't want to believe it myself. I was like, "How is this possible?" Jason rattled on a mile a minute. "But it's true. Whenever I'm around you, Mia, I get this tingly feeling." My insides twisted and turned. A slimy snake was zigzagging through me. The more Jason described, the more I squirmed. "This isn't happening," I said. I squeezing my eyes shut. I could feel my breakfast at the base of my throat. "Oh, it's happening," he said, "and it's going to be great." I turned to him. "Jason, I don't like you." I exploded. Jason looked like he had been punched. But, you said you liked the flowers. You said you wanted me to tell my dad." "I thought you were talking about your dad being mean." Took a step back. "My dad's not racist," he said. Yes, he is." I gasped it to fill my lungs. "He's racist." "Shut up," Jason said. "No, you shut up." I looked at him hard. "I could never like you. Never. Not even if you were the last boy on earth. I'd rather like a rock." He turned and ran. I stood in the auditorium listening to the echo of my words, feeling a tiny bit mean, yet 100% relieved. Jason didn't come back to class after recess. When I asked, Mrs. Douglas said he wasn't feeling well and had to go home. Lupe immediately started poking me and asking me what happened. And when I finally told her, she wasn't even surprised. "It makes sense," she said. "I mean, you're both Chinese. How did that make sense? Just because we're both Chinese, we're supposed to both like each other? What about what about the fact that he's evil and I'm not?" "Maybe it's a good thing," Lupe said. "Maybe his dad will be nice to your family from now on." I shook my head at her. The way I shot him down, there was no getting going nice after that. This was going nuclear. Oh boy, chapter 23. Let's see where we go with this. Hank was waiting for me at the motel when I got back from school. What are you doing home so early?" I asked him. Usually he didn't get home until past 6. "The cops came around to the gas station. They started asking me questions, asking my employer," he said. "And?" I asked him. He stared at the tiny lines in front of the desk wood, and my boss freaked out and fired me. I felt the floor beneath me open and swallow me whole. What? But you didn't do anything wrong. Doesn't matter. The boss said it was bad for business having the cops poke around. Hank pulled out a crumpled $100 bill from his pocket and slid it across the desk. This here is my last paycheck, he said. I looked at the bill on the table. What are you going to do? I asked him. He didn't say anything. He just gazed out the window at the leaves in the pool. Hank, I said loudly, you have to fight this. Hank shook his head. You don't get it, kid, he said. I've been fighting my whole life. I'm done. It's no use fighting. People are going to be the way they're going to be. After Hank went back to his room, I searched the kitchen for canned foods. If it was his last paycheck and he had just given it to us, he was going to need all the help he could get. I was in the middle of rummaging through the fridge when I heard a knock on the door. It was a security guard from the Topaz Inn 2 doors down, a Chinese guy about my parents' age, probably second or third generation from the confident way he spoke English. Open up. I gotta talk to you, he hollered. I buzzed him in. Heard you guys got a little visit from the cops, he said. A sly grin stretched across his face. The Topaz people did not like us, and we did not like them. To say that we had a little rivalry was an understatement. Every day they tried to undercut our prices. They had a bigger motel, so naturally they had more rooms. But we had a nicer, better location because it was the first motel on our block. You have to drive past us to get to Topaz Inn, which drove them nuts. The Topaz people came up with all sorts of ridiculous tactics to get back at us, including the one time when they had one of their people stand a few blocks with a sign that said, Don't stay at the Cala Vista. It's full of roaches. Stay at the Topaz. Mr. Yao happened to be driving by that day. When he saw what they were doing, he went straight to Ralph's, bought a dozen eggs, and hurled them at his sign. So it was quite a shock to see the Topaz security guard standing here in our lobby. What do you want? I asked him. Look, I know we've had our differences over the years, he said, but in light of what happened, I come to offer a truce. I stared at him. A truce? He nodded. What happened over here last night was a tragedy, he said. We were so upset when we heard about it. Really? I would have thought they'd be celebrating. Really? He said. Now look, it's it's in neither of our interests to have bad people stay out at our hotels. I get it gives the area a terrible rep and business suffers. So why don't we do this? He pulled out a piece of paper. There was a list of all the bad people we've checked in the last month, he said. I peered closely at the list. I'm sure you have a few names of your own you'd like to add to it, he said. I did, starting with the drunk guy. So here's what you're going to do. You tell me the names of your bad people, and I'll tell you the names of our bad people. I'm going to show you the list to the Lagoon Motel people and the other stores on our street. So we're all in on it. And if anybody from this list calls looking for a room, we'll tell them the same thing. No vacancy. How's that? I nodded. It sounded like a plan. I thought back at all those things that had happened over the last few weeks. We could sure use some more safety around here. All right, then. He took out his pen, and I took out my dad's big ledger with all the customers' name and information. Really? He asked. Really, I said. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of very yellow teeth. Let's start with last month. Give me the names of all the black customers who have come through here in the last month, he said. I slammed the ledger shut. Get out, I pointed to the door. Hey, no need to get worked up, kid, he said, holding his hands up. I'm just trying to help. Get out, I repeated. Suit yourself, he said. He huffed as he walked out, stuffing his list into his pocket. But don't come crying to me when this place gets robbed again, which it will. Oh, wow. Well, that leaves us to chapter 24, which we will hit on tomorrow. All right. Have a good day.